Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Today we're going to talk about the Beretta Model 418, which famously and possibly even correctly is identified as James Bond's gun from the novels, although it did malfunction on him in From Russia with Love and caused all sorts of problems, and Q forced the venerable Walther PPK 7.65 millimeter on him in its place. But James Bond loved his little 25, which might have been a Model 418. There's some confusion about that, and we'll get to that in a minute. Meanwhile, I'd like to shout out to my Patreons. This all costs money, and your support helps more than you know. If you wish to join my supporters on Patreon, there's a link in the description below. I'd also like to thank channel benefactors like Rain City Shooting Center and a whole bunch of other people who've just been very nice and very helpful to the channel, providing donations of ammunition, all sorts of little things, and allowing me to show you their guns. So, the Beretta Model 418. It's this. After researching it carefully, I can say definitively that this is a Beretta Model 418. What I cannot tell you is what else is a Beretta Model 418, because there seems to be a lot of confusion. If I look stressed, it's because I have a headache from trying to research the history of this gun. Beretta started making 25 autos somewhere around 1920, roughly. And the models evolved continuously over time. And at some point, they made a model called the 318, and at some point after that, they made a Model 418. This is a Model 418, incontrovertibly. The rest of you zombies will have to figure it out for yourselves. I just don't know when they started manufacturing these, but they did manufacture them through the 1950s. And we'll talk more about what makes this definitely a Model 418 in the tabletop. But the elephant in the room, of course, is James Bond. James Bond carried a Beretta 25. Probably this one, because it would have been contemporary to the first novels. It's an alloy-framed, blowback-operated, striker-fired semi-automatic pistol. And he made various modifications to it, because Ian Fleming apparently had never seen one of these. He sawed off the barrel, presumably all 1/8 of an inch of it that sticks out of the gun. He sawed off the tiny and really unobtrusive front sight that is not possibly going to catch on anything. Had what's described as skeletonized grips, but later, when it was talked about wrapping the grip in tape for better traction, it's apparent that it simply had the grips removed. Why? Oh, and the tape also held down the grip safety, which is completely unnecessary because the grip safety works just fine, and there's absolutely no way you can handle this pistol and fire it without activating the grip safety. Oh, and it was threaded for a suppressor or a silencer, probably with a counter bore to the front with threads cut internally, because that's really about the only way you could do it on a gun with this short a barrel. The sensible thing to do, of course, would be to get a longer barrel and cut it off and thread the outside, but Ian Fleming. Now, him not specifying a model number, I get it. Because the articles and histories that I found to read on the internet about this gun contradict each other, and often contradict themselves. I don't know why, but this was marketed in America as the Bantam, and when somebody pointed out that that was a breed of chicken, they switched it to the Panther in the 1950s at some point. What I can tell you is that the alloy frames started production in 1949 or so. Anyway, let's have a look at this little beastie on the tabletop. The Beretta Model 418 is a very compact little gun. It's about 4 5/8 inches long, 3 inches tall, and weighs 11 ounces with an unloaded magazine in it. So very handy, very easy to cart around, as befits a pocket pistol. It's a straight blowback striker-fired pistol, and the protrusion from the back of the striker sticks out to let you know positively that the gun is cocked, and you should see if there's a round in it, which there's not. It is different from the model 1934. That's safe. That gun's safety is vertical or horizontal, when unsafe, and has to be rotated 180 degrees forward. This arrangement is much more sensible in that you simply sweep it downward a little over 90 degrees. Very easy to do, very much better ergonomically than its larger brethren. Disassembly is very much like a Model 1935. You pull the slide to the rear, press back on the barrel until it comes loose, and then run the slide forward off the frame. And do be careful when you do this, because this will go flying if you are not careful. In fact, it would probably be a much better idea to have released the striker before disassembling the gun, but this is kind of more convenient. There's full-length steel guide rod, which, like the larger guns, also provides the spring pressure on the safety, which can easily be removed at this point. No particular reason to. And reassembly is simply the reverse of the process. Insert the guide rod, put it in its hole in the frame, slide the slide into place, make sure the spring lines up, set the safety, and allow it to lock back on the safety. Then you place the barrel in position, dropping the lug into the mag well, and press it forward, and then drop the slide, and you're ready to go. The sights, as is pretty typical for a pocket pistol, aren't much. There's a tiny notch in the rear and a tiny post at the front. And while they're not quick to pick up or particularly easy to use, they do actually correspond directly to where the bullets hit at 7 yards. So that's something. So they're not useless, but they're not going to be real useful in a high-speed, stressful situation. And again, that's typical of pocket pistols. The magazine holds 8 rounds, which is rather nice. And after you get the first 3 in, you can then grip the follower through the sides of this convenient hole and pull it down to make loading the remaining rounds easier, which is nice. Now the magazine, the heel release, is very easy to activate and works very well, but you do have to pull the magazine clear. That was kind of a European thing. They didn't like magazines to just drop out when you hit a release. The trigger pull, I'm not going to dry fire it because it's not good for the firing pin. The trigger pull is about 4 pounds and the release is quite long, but you don't really notice that when you're firing the gun. And this gun, according to its proofs, appears, it's badly worn here, appears to have been proofed in 1950, which means, of course, it would have been made prior to that point. Again, what scanty information I can find indicates the alloy frames came in 1949 or so. So this would actually be a fairly early gun. It's a nice, handy little gun. Grip safety, very positive and works very well, very easy to use. And it's just a basic, solid pocket pistol, and it's the end of, basically the end development of 30 years of Beretta tweaking and modifying their pocket pistols to make them better and better. And I like it a lot. Regardless of confusion about model numbers, maybe or maybe not James Bond, it's a fine little gun. It's very well crafted, very nice to handle, lovely to shoot. I like it quite a bit. 25 auto is better than harsh words in almost every circumstance. But Ian Fleming may have not been the biggest gun boffin in the world. He seemed to have a very overinflated idea of the efficacy, it's a word, of the 25 ACP, and referred to 32 ACP with hollow points as hitting like a brick through a plate glass window. So we will just draw the curtains of charity over Mr. Fleming and the fictional James Bond's choice to carry this or one of its ilk as a duty/spy pistol. It's all in good fun, right? So, I love this gun, and you know me and mouse guns if you're a fan of the channel. If you like the video, please hit like. It helps the channel more than you know. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And that's it for this time. So, I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.